Welcome to Rising Goddess Radio. I'm your hostess, Michelle Torrance. I created Rising Goddess Radio to be a space where we dive deep into our spiritual, emotional, and physical bodies. We're getting real and connecting with ourselves in the most intimate ways. We'll be talking all things sacred sexual, relationship building, and womb healing. We'll be learning how to connect with our bodies through learning the language it speaks, how to use our sexual and sensual energies to create, manifest, and heal our lives. This show is about healing the chaotic feminine and toxic masculine within to create a world that responds to the divine and healthy energy you chose to tune in, tap in, and turn on. We will learn from amazing humans who take time and share their wisdom and sacred healing magic, rising humans who are here in this world to be healers, teachers, guides, priestesses, warriors, and shamans. All divine sisters and brothers in rising. We'll get witchy, sassy, sexy, and saucy. We're going to talk all things that align us with our true nature and authentic selves and create a community that expands with the ascension and growth of each of us. So grab some green juice, light some cannabis, get your blankets, or sit by the pool because we are about to rise up another level together. Catch you on the inside, dolls. Hello, my beautiful rising humans, and welcome to this next episode of Rising Goddess Radio. Today's episode, if you haven't already guessed from the title of it, is how I fell in love with my vagina and how you can too. This episode definitely is for headphones, earbuds, or when children are not around. And we're going to be diving into some painful situations. We're going to talk about some practices and really just the importance of having such a healthy relationship and connection with your vagina. So if you haven't already yet, head over to the Rising Goddess group on Facebook. Make sure you join that. That is the community, the Rising Goddess community, and we are growing. Also head over to Facebook at Rising Goddess Radio. It says Michelle Torrance / The Rising Goddess, but it is Facebook at Rising Goddess Radio. So head on over there and make sure that you like and follow so that way we can continue to serve you. I am maxed out on my Facebook, so we've got to move over there so I can serve so many more of you amazing rising humans. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. This is, again, of course, a solo cast, and it's just me, it's you, it's cannabis, it's flow, and we're just going to go down a little bit of memory lane and we're just going to talk. So before we get started, first of all, what about you? What is your relationship with your vagina? Do you have a relationship with your vagina? If you don't have a relationship with your vagina, let's start there, right? If you do have a relationship with her, what is it like? Is it healthy? Is it toxic? Do you communicate? Do you connect? Do you ritual? Do you do practice and align with the vibration of your vagina? These may seem like some crazy questions, especially if you're kind of new to Rising Goddess Radio. Season 2, though, we are really expanding, and especially with our human lifestyle and sexuality series, as well as our consciousness rising series that's coming out too. But we're diving deep. We're going deeper so we can rise higher, and nothing is off limits. We are acting without inhibition, and we are seriously making waves and changes in this world and helping humans rise authentically and empower and embody their magic. So let's go ahead. What was my relationship with my vagina? Let's go back to when I was very young, and we never talked about it. We never talked about my vagina. It was just always pushed under the rug. We never talked about my period. I never knew. I knew the basics from 5th grade. But when I started my period, I was at my friend's house and I was in the shower, and I noticed that there was blood coming down. I thought I was dying, and I screamed, and my best friend's mom came in and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you started your period." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I my mom picked me up. The first person she calls is my fucking grandfather. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you calling my grandfather? So it was just this whole situation, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. So my relationship with my vagina was really not there. It was a part of me that has always been off limits. It was a part of me that was never to be touched unless I was cleaning myself. It was a part of me that was never to be talked about. It was a part of me that it was taboo. It was in the dark. There was no conversation about it. And then quickly that conversation started to turn, and it turned into the shameful conversation. My vagina was something that was, it was a shameful thing. And it was, oh God, it was just this, it was like this part of myself, a part of my body that was completely disconnected and not part of my body. Does that make sense? Does that make sense out there? Like it was like a complete disassociation from it. Until I was 13, right? It was after I'd started my period. My mom took me out, and my sex talk was basically her handing me a ring, telling me to save myself for marriage, right as the hot waiter guy was coming, right? So that was the sex talk regarding my vagina. So there wasn't any talk whatsoever. And so as things started shifting in my home and dysfunction was increasing, fear was increasing, miscommunication or lack of communication was continuing to increase in my home, the relationship with my vagina just simply wasn't there. I didn't know how to care for her. I didn't know how to love her. I didn't know how to integrate her perfection into my world because I didn't know how perfect she was. So fast forward a little bit, and I'm in high school. I'm a sophomore in high school. And I have a boyfriend, and the first time he goes down on me, it's after school, it's in Vegas, it's, hot all the fucking time. And it was like, it just happened. It felt weird. I didn't like it. I felt so insecure. I felt so shameful. I felt disgusting. I felt terrible. I just hated the whole experience. And then come to find out that this guy who went down on me proceeded to tell people that I fucking stank. So with that, I completely hated my vagina. I hated her. I would scrub her in the shower and in the bath so hard. I would rub her raw because I hated her so much. And I thought that she was so dirty. And the only way for me to be a good girl, the only way for me to be a clean, good girl is by completely washing her raw. And I did this for many years in high school. Oh God, I hated myself so much in high school. It was such a time in my life where I had nobody at home to talk to. There was so much no communication and drama going in and out. And I was seeking perfection in every single area and aspect of my life. I was reaching out to people. I was in so many codependent relationships, completely being in the submissive form, being the one that lets, all the other friends fuck them over, and, I was the friend where, somebody would be friends with me and then they'd go off and find a new fun and exciting friend, get fucked over and come back to me. But while they went off to their new friend, they'd leave me to the side, start talking shit, it'd be like this whole thing. And then they'd come back, but I allowed them to. And I did this for so many years, And we'll talk about another episode regarding breaking up with dysfunctional and codependent relationships after years of living in codependency. That'll be another episode that we talk about. But let's get back to this. So for many years, I hated it. I hated my vagina. I hated everything about her. I hated the touch, the feel, the smell, everything. I hated the fact that I had one. I hated the fact that I didn't know how to care for her. I hated the fact that my mom never taught me anything about it. I hated the fact that if I was looking at friends' products and stuff like that, trying to get curious, that I would get made fun of. I hated the fact that all of these insecure and all of these things that were happening in my world seemed to revolve around the hate around my vagina. And, it's such a sad thing. It's a sad experience because I think of girls now and how it's so important, especially as we are in this day and age right now, especially as Goddess is rising through, especially as Divine Feminine is standing up, taking lead and healing and running through, right? It's like water through the Grand Canyon. That's what the Divine Feminine is, running through the toxic masculinity to clear it out and move it through. And it's so important for young girls and women to have a healthy relationship with their vagina. So as I got into college, I went to college for a semester. I went to UNLV. I was a music education major. I was a musician for many years, if you don't know that about me. So I went to UNLV for, a half a year, semester and a half. I got into basketball season, so I was in pep band and marching band and all that shit. And then I dropped out, and throughout that time, I abused my vagina. I abused her with people. I abused her with terrible products. I abused her with lack of love. I abused her just from the pure hatred that I had because I was so afraid of her. I was so afraid of everything that was regarding her because everything I had been taught and conditioned about her was that she was wrong, she was bad, she was shameful, she was dirty, she was sinful, she was just everything that was wrong with me. That's what my vagina was. And it was a sad time. It was a time where, I was abusing my body with many different things. Many different drugs, many different, just everything. Hatred, words that I would tell myself. Our words are spells. That's why it's called spelling tests, right? Words are spells. So the words that we say to ourselves, we're casting spells upon ourselves, just as the words we say to others, we're casting spells upon others. And, I had created a monster around my vagina, and the only way that I would let anybody near her was to get fucked up. To just get fucked up. I just kept running and running and running. All the fucking drugs. Coke, ecstasy, speed. I used to fucking huff paint, everybody. I huffed paint. I took K. I did so many fucking drugs. And I did that because I kept running. I was so afraid. I was so afraid of everything. So afraid of my body, myself, my life, my existence, my everything. So let's start to grow up a little bit, right? I meet Sean. Sean and I are going on 19 years together. And, it was amazing. Sean was actually the one who helped me start to even create a dialogue with my vagina. He's loved my vagina from the beginning. He showed me how to care for her just from his love and care for her. He showed me how to talk to her because of the way he talked to her. He showed me how to connect with her because of the way he connected with her. I was so terrified for years. For years, I hated that he went down on me. For years, it was so uncomfortable. I was so insecure. And I would stop him. And I love it when he goes down. Hallelujah, fuck. He's fucking amazing, right? Because it's an experience, and it's part of the experience. And and to kind of go into something a little off topic, which we'll go into another episode about, but, I used to compare him to all of the other boys that were in my life previously and how they treated me and my vagina. So it took years for me to start to trust him. And it's crazy how I started to trust him before I started to trust my vagina. And while it sounds like a really sad thing, because it is, it really is, it's really a beautiful thing as well. It's a beautiful thing to see the healthy masculine allowing his divine feminine to flow through, to guide a lost, scared, fucking, just a drowning soul. And I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it, because it's like, I hated myself so much. So let's start fast forwarding a little bit from there, right? Let's go back to about 2 years ago. Seriously, just 2 years ago. Let's go back and me stopping birth control. I was done. My body, I had been switched to multiple different birth controls for so many years. It was just a constant switch. Every time my body would get used to one, then, the doctor would switch it to a different one. And so then by the time my body would get used to that one, it switched it again. So my periods were terrible. My body was just I was done. I was just done with birth control. Now, this isn't an episode or a podcast to tell you about the, ins and outs and ups and downs of birth control. That'll be a whole nother episode. But for me, for my body, I had to stop. It was killing me. It was killing me from the emotional and chemical inside out. So I stopped. And once I stopped, that's when serious rapid growth started happening. I started tracking my cycle because I didn't want to get pregnant. So I had to force myself to start to have a relationship with my womb space. I started to force myself to have a relationship with my uterus. I had started to force myself to have a relationship with my vagina. I put myself in the womb space because it was critical for me, because I don't want to have more children. I'm here to help children and teenagers and other humans, but I'm here to help more other kids at this point. I'm done having children of my own. And so for me to ensure that I am aligned with shit, I had to throw myself into the fire, into my womb space. And because I threw myself in there, I started researching. I started getting curious. And then I started to hit blocks. I started to hit resistance, right? When we hit resistance, we know that's the time, right? That's when our higher self is saying, hey, you're getting a little farther away because you're doing something. You're bypassing, you're running from something. Let's turn around and start facing it. And so I started to stop running. I stopped running from my vagina. I stopped running from my uterus. I stopped running from every single aspect and vibration that was connected to my womb space. And I dove head in. I face first into my vagina. And that's where we're going with this. So let's keep talking. So as I started to track moon cycles, as I started to really get connected, and I really aligned with my witchy self, and again, quantum leaps were made because I was choosing my truth. I was making the steps. I was choosing the right action steps that were getting me closer and closer to my highest alignment at that moment in time. And who knew that the way to my truth was through my vagina? Who knew? Goddess did. So as I started researching, then I started reading a book. I started reading the Magdalene manuscript. And the Magdalene manuscript is the story about Mary Mary Magdalene and her relationship and marriage with Jesus, the connection that they had, the sexual alchemy that they practiced, the daughter that they had, and the sex priestesses of Isis, and how it's passed down through generations. And I really started to connect, and I started to realize, holy fuck, this is a lineage of mine, and I fall into this because it feels aligned, it feels true. And anytime I get closer towards this particular action of sexual alchemy, more opportunities are opened up and presented to me for growth and awareness and healing. And so when I realized that, then I started to make conscious efforts. Now, more than just diving in to study the physical aspect of my uterus and my vagina and my period and my moon cycles and going through all that, this was the aspect of diving into the healing aspect, the emotional and energetic and vibration aspect of my vagina. And so I started a ritual and practice. Now, I've been masturbating since I was 9-10 years old. I've been watching scrambly porn since I was 9-10 years old. And I mean, that was, man, getting past that shame of watching scrambly porn just happened really probably about a few weeks ago. So masturbation wasn't something that was new for me, but I always felt shame around it. I felt disgusted. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt like I was a bad person. I was a bad girl. Good girls don't do that. Good girls don't masturbate. Good girls don't touch their vaginas. Good girls don't talk about their vaginas. Good girls don't do this. And that was what was constantly running through my head, constantly going through me. And so for me, I decided to start to do more of a tantric practice. That's when I started diving into tantric philosophy. And of course, Kundalini comes from the tantric philosophy. Tantric philosophy, the base tantric philosophy, not even just tantric sex, but the base tantric philosophy is that everything is sacred. Everything is sacred. And so by going into starting to heal my relationship with my vagina, I went in with the alignment and the connection and the understanding of everything is sacred. And that includes my vagina. That includes my relationship with my vagina. That includes my relationship with my vagina and somebody else. And so I started to slowly connect with my vagina. I would put my hands down there and I would just hold her. I would hold her and tell her, it's okay. You're safe. You're safe to start coming out. You're safe to start shining. You're safe to start allowing. You're safe. And that was the key. The biggest key for me was starting off this new relationship with my vagina, letting her know that she's safe. She's safe with me. I'm not going to hurt her. I'm not going to abuse her. That girl was scared. That girl didn't know. That girl didn't understand. I do. I do know. I'm not scared. I do understand. And so this is where the process really started to shift tremendously. And so I would go into more of these tantric self-practices and really this is where a lot of my sexual healing started to take place. I would really start to first start off with holding and then slowly touching and then rubbing and getting myself connected with my vagina in so many different ways, the different aspects of her, the different areas of her. The next step was looking at my vagina. And that was a very tough process. And it's tough for many women, depending on the level of fear that you're coming from. If you're coming from a serious, scary fear of your vagina, then looking at your vagina, especially after this process, you finally gotten to the place of comfort with touching and knowing, where it is at, more than just masturbating because you just needed to do that and that's what you do. And then that used to be a form of abuse for yourself, right? You would just do it rough and hard and just get it over with and get it done. That's how I used to do it. It's how I used to be with her. I used to be so rough and so just, oh God. You know, it's, I knew this was going to be an emotional episode. But even just doing this episode and just sharing with you the different steps is really just a whole nother layer of healing, not only for me, but I can feel it out there for others. Even if they're not hearing this episode, even if they have no clue who the fuck I am, the healing that's going on is rippling throughout. And that's traveling and it's hitting into whole other areas and a whole other, places in the world, and that they're feeling it in their areas too. And so I start to look at her. So then I start to look at her while I touch her. And then as I look at her while I touch her, I start to be able to incorporate and integrate the senses around my vagina, realizing that she is fully my most sensitive, most precious and creative gift for me as a woman, not the sinful, dirty, hatred embodiment. Does that make sense? I feel like those were just words that just like, you kind of pick up what I'm putting down. I know y'all goddesses out there are hearing me. So I start to touch and look at the same time. And as I'm doing that, then I slowly start talking to her. Again, I'm talking to her, I'm touching her, I'm connecting with her, I'm holding her. And when I'm holding her, I'm telling her I love her. She's beautiful. She's soft. She's courageous. She's magical. She's mysterious, she's mystic, she's witchy, she's sassy, she's calm, she's warm, she smells amazing, she tastes even better. She's this part of me that is the most life-giving and the portal to the creative life force that was given to me as a gift. She's the portal to the creative life force that was given to me. And so being able to redirect and create a whole new relationship with my vagina is really how I was able to actually understand how to use sexual alchemy. It was how I was able to understand by removing that shame, right? I was able to transmute it. I took the shame and I transmuted it from shame and into power. Transmute that sexual shame and turn it into your sexual power, because sexual power is not a negative thing. Sexual power is not the patriarchal toxic masculinity idea that we have been conditioned. It's not, sexual power is not this terrible thing. Sexual power is our independent right. Sexual power is the creative life force that we have. Our sexual, energetic, creative life force that runs through us is it's the culmination. It's the magic that is allowing us to create, to co-create as humans. See, the patriarchy wants us to continue, right? This is part of that witch wound, right? The mother wound. The mother wound, a refresher. The mother wound is the pain of being a woman in a patriarchal culture. Just the pain of being a woman. So the fact is that already we're born with that pain because we have a fucking vagina. So it's time to shift. It's time to redirect, and it's time to reconnect with our vaginas. Since I've fallen in love with my vagina, I've come to the conclusion that, I've been bisexual my whole life, and I hated that part of myself. I was so scared because that was such a bad thing. Good girls don't do that. Good girls don't do anything like that. And so I was running for so long and hated my vagina because I was so afraid of my truth. And ultimately, listen, let me say this, and I say this a lot in my Rising Goddess group. The truth is not what we're afraid of. The truth is not what we're afraid of. What we're afraid of is the lies that we have finally become aware of that surround us, that we are now having to work through to get to the truth. That's the scary part. So, what is your relationship with your vagina? Do you love her? Do you hate her? Do you know her? You know, just because I fell in love with my vagina and I realized that I was running from her and I was hating for her, and a whole part of that process was because I was so afraid to rise into my truth, to fully understand who I am, to fully accept who I am. Not everybody who falls in love with their vagina becomes bisexual. But for me, it allowed me to fully remove the judgment from myself. And I realized all of the judgment and the criticism and the jealousy and the hatred and the competition that I had with all these other women in the world was because I was afraid to be me. And falling in love with my vagina allowed me to. It allowed me to rise up into my truth. It allowed me to heal ancient lines of pain and fear and hatred and cycles of dysfunctional conditioning and the patriarchal toxicity running through. I no longer allow it. I choose differently. And because I do, I've shifted. I've broken that. And I can show the younger generation. I can show my daughters. I can show my son the amazingness and the power of a healthy relationship with your vagina. And that it's a great thing. And that just because you're a woman, you're not here as the sinful, dirty, terrible witch. Right? Witch is fucking, that word has been taken and stolen from us. I take it back. I take it back. I am a motherfucking witch. I'm a bisexual witch who has an amazing, fantastic relationship with her vagina. And I help other women create and heal relationships with their vaginas too. So, what an episode, huh? I'd love for you to come over into the Rising Goddess group on Facebook and to continue the conversation, and continue the healing. So head over there. Let's be part of the conversation. Also head over to Facebook at Rising Goddess Radio, and please head to Instagram. I'm growing my Instagram. We're growing up to 10,000 by the end of March, and that, of course, is all because of you. And make sure you head over to iTunes to rate and review. Again, we are doing 1 million downloads by the end of 2019, and that is all your support, your energy, and your encouragement and love. It's because of you that we are getting that goal, and we are going to reach that goal. So thank you for coming in and being a part of this healing process and hearing the story of how I fell in love with my vagina. The tools and the practices that I shared with you on what I did, those are what you can do too. Those are what I do with my clients. I pretty much most of the homework that I give my clients has a lot to do with healing their relationship with their vagina, including masturbation and shifting the perspective and how you masturbate with your vagina too. I mean, fuck. Women out there, including myself. There's rough. I get that. But there is also a point when you are doing it because you are in a shameful vibration for it. And we've got to remove that shame. There's no reason for shame to be around your sexual vibration. There's no reason for shame to be around your sexual identity. There's no reason for shame to be around any sort of aspect of your sexual, energetic, creative vibe, because our whole purpose as humans was to come here and co-create. And our creation energy, our creative life force, is our sexual energy. Our sexual energy is our creative life force. So for you to put shame around anything that has to do with sex, sexual energies, sexual reproductive systems, your sexual organs is going to put a massive block and hindrance on the creative life force, the intuitive hits and the masterpieces and the purposes and the passion projects that you're here to create as a human. You're here to co-create with the universe, co-create with other humans, co-create with your higher self. So head over to the Rising Goddess group. Come check out www.therisinggoddess.com and let's work together on the Master the Rising Intensive, where I've got one-on-one coaching. I've got my Sexual Alchemy Master Course. I have the tools to help, but you got to be the one to walk through. I'm holding space. You're not judged. You're not bad. You're not bad. You're not bad. All right, my beautiful humans, thank you for joining me on this episode, and I will catch you on the next one. Later.